in Havana, many people, especially the older generation, are reacting emotionally to the death of Fidel Castro. Leaders around the world are praising Castro, but this is in sharp contrast to much of the political reaction back in the U.S. In Revolution Square, in churches, preparations for more than a week of official mourning before a burial ceremony next Sunday. One woman overcome with grief. She says, "For me, he is not dead." Also expressing emotion, Elian Gonzalez, now nearly 23 years old, who as a 6-year-old boy was shipwrecked on the Florida shores, his mother dying on that journey. Returning him to Cuba became a national cause for Fidel Castro. Elian now says, "I wanted to show him everything I achieved, that he would be proud of me. That's how it was with Fidel." Cuban TV paid tributes all day and all night to the founder of the revolution, still a towering figure in his nation's imagination, even after he succumbed to illness and gave up power to his brother Raul. Young people marched, one saying, "It's painful for our country. This is the president we all loved." No sign of the protesters against his family's human rights abuses, the so-called ladies in white, who marched silently every Sunday. When I interviewed Fidel Castro in 2002, he was defiant against U.S. pressure to introduce political reforms, telling me it isn't logical for anyone to set conditions for anyone else. The U.S. has relations with other countries without setting conditions. In fact, he was always confident his cause would outlive him, defying 11 American presidents, writing a final column denouncing the U.S. election only 2 weeks ago, once telling me, "There will be no problem if I die tomorrow because we have lots of young people who are well trained, who know what to do."
Andrea, as you know, Castro's regime began in 1959 with firing squads and the jailing of dissidents and shutting down of media. The list goes on, and yet there is an affinity there on the island of Cuba. What's been the reaction there that you've seen today?
Well, the reaction is muted, and we have yet to see whether the protests develop today. You know, the ladies in white, the women who march silently every Sunday, have resisted all sorts of repression and have marched throughout. Whether they do that today remains to be seen. It's usually Sunday after church. That said, I think Cuba has moved on in many ways. Raul has made so many changes, the market reforms, the opening to the U.S., which Fidel Castro never fully embraced and was critical of, somewhat diplomatically, if you will. But now we have to see what the reaction is going to be from the U.S. side. And there is basically a holding action here. They're very nervous about what to expect. And the fact that President Obama has been so heavily invested in these changes, the expectation is that they can be undone, and they can be undone by canceling the executive orders. A lot is in place. Postal service, airline travel just beginning, regular commercial flights. So the addition of more cultural exchanges, more people traveling. That said, this is a turning point. They know, and they're very, very conscious of the political changes back in the U.S.
And Andrea, of course, you've spent a lot of time there in Cuba, including a long, extended interview in 2002 with Castro, where he gave you a tour of the country effectively. What were your personal impressions of the man up close?
Well, he was so argumentative. I first went in 1999, when there were so many protests against the U.S. at the height of the controversy over Elian Gonzalez, that 6-year-old boy. And we would argue. He would have dinners or meetings or interviews starting at midnight, going till 2 and 3 in the morning. So sometimes it was hard just to keep up with him. And we would debate the politics and the human rights abuses and the lack of free elections. And over the years, I had many interviews with him, and he was still combative. He read everything. He had access to the internet. Most people here did not back then. And he was a voracious reader, questioning me about politics and about the economy back in the U.S., and very, very aware of everything that was going on. Very, very smart, and very wedded to his revolutionary ideology.
I loved hearing you say, Andrea, in one interview that you conducted with Castro, one of his answers lasted 45 minutes, which gave you some time to catch a nap. So, Andrea, thank you so much for all your reporting there in Havana. Yes. Good to see you. Thanks so much.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.